I'm Tim Kaine. I'm currently the junior senator from Virginia, and from 2006 to 2010, I was the governor when we tackled this issue of the declining blue crab harvest and population in the Chesapeake Bay. In Virginia, we're really fortunate. We have a top-notch marine science institute that's connected with the College of William and Mary, the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, and they give us reports on the health of the Chesapeake Bay and other issues we have to pay attention to. And they brought to us over the course of the years in 2006, 2007, evidence that the harvest of blue crabs and the blue crab population really was dramatically declining. And this fishing industry is a key part of the bay. The healthy crab population is a good indicator of the health of the Chesapeake Bay. And so we asked VIMS, what should we do? There was also a need to tackle an issue, this issue that we call the ghost pot issue, these abandoned crab pots that would trap crabs that then couldn't be harvested, but that would then also reduce their ability to spawn and have a healthy population. So this was a multi-pronged strategy that we put in place after discussions in 06 and 07 to try to bring back a healthy blue crab population in the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, it is sizable. You were talking about the extent of the watermen's industry. It's not just those who are, the fishermen, but it's gear suppliers, it's commercial boat operators, it's folks who are, helping folks fish on weekends. Probably 10 to 12 of Virginia's 135 counties, waterman-related industry is a core pillar of their economies. And so when you see blue crabs suffer, or a declining oyster population, or rockfish that aren't in abundant supply, these jurisdictions feel it in a very direct way. Well, I'll talk a little bit about it. My sense of this sort of ghost pot problem. So again, there are many problems that were leading to the declining population, but one was, crab pots that would be out in the bay, they would become severed from the buoys, or sometimes they would still be on the buoys but just abandoned, and fishermen wouldn't use them anymore. They might have been baited at one time. Crabs would get into the pots. They couldn't get out. They would then become bait for the next crab to get in, and these pots have a way of just continuing to catch crabs even if they're not harvested from these pots. And when we put a program in place, because obviously when we put these dredge restrictions and limits on female harvests in place, many of the watermen were not happy. I mean, Governor O'Malley and I had to look at people and say, we're putting restrictions in place for the good of this industry, but for the next couple of years, it's going to be a challenge. And they weren't happy, but we said, how about this? If we can get a grant to pay you for going out and removing these ghost pots, you'll have some work to do that you can get paid for environmental restoration, which is going to help the health of this fishery, so it's in your long-term benefit. We were able to retrieve tens of thousands of ghost pots, over 30,000 ghost pots out of the bay, and VIMS was able to make a calculation. So what's the effect on this? So they conclude that these ghost pots probably take nearly 900,000 crabs out every year, killed, not harvested, so it's hurting the population without there being a commercially viable use through harvest, and that costs the fishing industry upwards of $300,000 a year. Then there is also the effect of the ghost pots on equipment. They break free, and then they cause equipment damage, et cetera. We determined that this ghost pot problem was a significant one in terms of the health of the population, and we were able to put our watermen to work during a challenging time when we had put restrictions in place, doing the environmental restoration of retrieving tens of thousands of ghost pots. I do. I think, look, this ultimately helps there be a viable population, which is good for the industry. But I think it's a good sustainability practice. The crab population roared back within a couple of years, and that was actually what the VIMS scientists had told us, that crabs are really resilient. If you put some of these restrictions in place, you want to keep them in place for 10 or 15 years, you'll see results right away, and we did. So it would be my hope that on a project like this, we could get the seafood industry to itself fund a project like this. Some of the processors and food preparers and some of those that buy the crabs that are harvested, they ought to want a healthy population. And if they could chip in a little bit to continue to pay some of these folks who are out on the water every day to not only harvest crabs, but also continue to do the work of taking ghost pots out of the Chesapeake Bay, it would be in everybody's interest.